Hello, welcome to the SuccessFactors Recruiting Knowledge Transfer Sessions. Today, in this session, we will be talking about the applicant status configuration and the status triggered emails. So I'm in Admin Center. I will show you how you can get to the page to do the configuration, and I will talk a little bit about the options that we have. So to go to the applicant status configuration page, either we use the recruiting menu here as usual, and then this is the option, edit applicant status configuration, or we can use the tool search here at the top. We can also favorite bookmark some of the pages. So if there's a page that you normally use very often, you can just mark that page as a favorite, and then that page will appear here, which is what is happening with my setup here. So the edit applicant status configuration is here in my favorites. So to do that, you just need to check this little star here, and then the page will be bookmarked. So let me just click in there and let me talk a little bit about the applicant statuses. So the applicant statuses are used to track the candidate's progress through the recruiting process. So it is also used to track the recruiting metrics for compliance purposes and really for process control. So the configuration of the applicant statuses requires first a setup that needs to be done in provisioning. So as you know, you don't have access to provisioning, so that is something that professional services or partners have to do first. And then here in Admin Center in this page, you are able to create an applicant status set. So always make sure that the tasks are done in provisioning first, and then you can do that here. So I have a few status set already created here. So I will show you the setup that I have here, but you could definitely add a new one by clicking here in the Add New button. So let me just click here on the standard one, for example. So essentially what's happening is that once this status set is set up, you can use it to manage the applicants through the recruiting process. So after the status set is created, we are going to associate this status set to the job requisition template. So all applicants of that job requisition will be managed through those statuses. So as you can see, I have several statuses here. You can scroll all the way down, and you can see that I have many statuses here. So the ones that are here at the top are system statuses, are like standard statuses that are offered with the product. You can definitely relabel them. So for example, the forwarded, the invited to apply, default, auto disqualified, and so on. So all the way here up until the declined DPCS, they are the standard statuses that the product offer. Again, you can definitely relabel them, and we can make other configuration, which I'll show you in a second. And then if you come here into this in progress statuses section, these are the custom statuses. So these are the statuses that you are going to create or that were created actually in provisioning. So again, in provisioning, professional services or partners are going to do the initial setup. They are going to create the statuses that your process will require. And then here you will be able to activate them or not. So whatever is below the in progress statuses are custom statuses that you are going to define for your recruiting process. And then under the disqualification statuses, those will be custom, those will be defined by you as well. And you can have as many as you need. We don't recommend having too many statuses. I mean, the idea is really to think about exactly what kind of statuses you need and what kind of statuses you are going to use, you are going to actually move candidates into. If there's no need for a status to be here, then we don't really need to activate the status or even create the statuses. So really make sure that you go through that exercise of really understanding what kind of statuses you will require for your recruiting process. So as I was mentioning, there are some statuses that are delivered by the product, which is the forwarded, the invited to apply, the default, auto disqualified, and so on. So up until here, if you want to take a look at the setup or really change the setup of those statuses, you just need to click on the status name. And this will open an additional window for the status. So let me just go through the settings that we have here. So really the first one is the language. So again, once you have, or if you have multiple languages enabled in your instance, you can definitely add translations for your statuses. So for example, this is English US. This is going to be the label that the recruiting users will see. So this is the internal label. And this is going to be the candidate label. But this is English US, so definitely if you have other languages, let's say you have French, for example, you will want to translate, or you will probably want to translate this in French so that once a candidate and a recruiting user are using the system in French, they don't see the English word, but they see the French translation. I'm going to keep this in English US for now, but definitely make sure that you add your translations as needed. So status ID, we don't change that. We don't have the possibility to add that, to edit that. That is really system generated. The name of the status, this is the backend name. We don't change that either, but we can definitely update the internal label, the candidate label. So again, internal label is what the recruiting users, so the employees of your company will see. Candidate label is what candidates will see on the jobs applied portlet. And then the next steps, the text. So this normally provides information to the candidate about what is going to happen next in the process. And then we have the employee referral program settings. So if you are using employee referral, you can definitely make this status visible to the referrer as well, or you can obviously decide, you can definitely decide not to show that information to the referrer. So that this is really up to you and up to your processes. Then we have here the settings. So hide the status from users who don't have application status privilege to, and hide applicant count from the users who don't have application status visible to privilege. So this is really the permissions for the status. So who is able to see the status and who is able to see the applicant count of that status. So this permission visible to, we can see this here down below. So this is the section for the permission visible to. So visible to really means who is able to see the status. So you will only, or a user will only be able to see a status if they have this visible to permission. So as you can probably recognize here, these are the rules, these are the operators in your job requisition process. So you can think about who is able, so from all those operators, who is able to visualize this status. So let's say in this case, I don't want my hiring manager to see this status. So I don't check the box for that. And then here in this section here, the external candidate, internal candidates, current manager. So all of these are the status triggered email. So similarly to triggers that we have already covered, the status triggered emails are notifications that can be sent out to candidates or to recruiting users once something happens. And that something happening is when you move a candidate into the status. So let's say that you would like to send a notification to the internal candidate's current manager once a candidate is placed in the forwarded status, you would come here and you would pick a template here from your list of templates. Always make sure that the template is created previously in the recruiting email templates, and then you are able to pick the template here. So these are all the possibilities that we have. Again, these are the rules in your requisition. So really the idea behind this is that you are going to think about who do I need to notify once a candidate is placed in each one of these statuses. Really think about that important role or important person that really needs to be notified. We don't want to send too many notifications, but definitely let's say that once a candidate is placed into a status, somebody needs to take an action, somebody needs to do something. It is a good practice to notify that person that the candidate was actually placed or moved into that specific status. So make sure that you take advantage of all of these possibilities. So again, you can open each one of these statuses and really make your setup. Let me just scroll down a little bit. So for example, let me just open one that it's in the in progress status section, meaning again, that is a status that is a custom status, that it's a status that is particular to your process, to your recruiting process. Okay. So again, all of these sections here are very similar. As you can see, this one I want to show to the referrer. So I have this populated as well. And then we have a few different things here. Because this is an in-progress status, there's other possibilities that we have for this one. So the excuse me, let me just go back. So the forwarded, for example, that was the one that I've opened. These are the only settings that we can control. However, because this is an in-progress status, I have more flexibility here. So I can enable this status for internal candidates. I can enable the status for external candidates. So you can really decide who do you want to enable this status for. So let's say, for example, you have assessments. Your recruiting process includes making assessments to candidates. You can definitely decide that an internal candidate doesn't need to go into an assessment stage because the candidate most likely had already done that because he's an internal candidate. But however, you will probably want an external candidate to go through an assessment stage. So this would be a good use case to disable the status for the internal candidates, but enable the status for external candidates. And then again, hide the status from users who don't have application status visible to, and then hide applicant count from the users who don't have application status visible to privilege. And then collect comment if the status is skipped. So let's say that the status is not mandatory, so you can essentially bypass that status. You can require recruiting users to add a comment explaining why they are skipping a specific status. And to make a status mandatory, you would check the box here. So if the status is mandatory, you must, or a recruiting user must place the candidate at least once in the status. So if you try to bypass that status, they will receive an error message saying that they have to, or that they don't have the permissions to do that because the status is mandatory. And then we also have some hireable options here. So I have the hireable, I have the hired, and I have none. So this will really depend on integrations that you have for hiring. If you have onboarding, if you have Employee Central, for example, you will need to make specific configurations here as well. And then I have all my emails set up here. And then the permissions section. So we've seen before that the visible to permission is the permission that allows users to view the applicants that are in the status. So if I don't want the hiring manager to see the applicants that are in the status, I am going to leave this box unchecked. But if I want the hiring manager to see the candidates that are in there, I'm going to check the box here. And then I have the selectable by. So the selectable by means that users that have this permission are able to move the candidates in that status, are able to place the candidate in that status. If the user attempts to place the applicant in a status for which they do not have the selectable by access, they are going to receive an error. So always make sure that you go through the exercise of determining who should be able to move candidates to a status and who should be able to view the applicants in that status. So again, selectable by means that the user that have the permission to do that is able to place the candidate in that status. So in this case, this is the pre-screen status. So the recruiter, for example, has the permission to place the candidate in this pre-screen status, and the visible to means that the user or the role has the permission to view the applicants that are in the status. If a user has the permission to view but not the selectable by permission, then the user can see the applicants that are in the status, but the user cannot move candidates to that status. So that is the example of my hiring manager here. My hiring manager can see the applicants because he has the visible to, but he cannot move candidates to the pre-screen status because he does not have the selectable by permission. As you can see, I also have some groups here. So I have the screen, which combines pre-screen and the recruiter review. I have the manager review, which is the hiring manager review, proceed and decline. So these are really groups and then groups of status, and then these are sort of like the sub-statuses. So in the recruiting page, this will look like a box, and then a group of a group of statuses, and then you will see a drop down with pre-screen and then recruiter review. Okay, so each group will be like a box, will be a bucket in the recruiting page, and then you will be able to see a drop down with the sub-statuses. And the reason why we do this is that it is much more user-friendly and the user doesn't need to scroll all the way to the right or to the left when viewing the applicant statuses if we group them together in boxes, in groups. And then you can also click here in this edit button here. So either you click on the name of the status or you click in the edit, and then you click in the move up or down to change the order of the status. And once you are done with all your changes, you are going to click here in the I am done button, and then your changes will be effective in the UI.